What is going on, everybody on YouTube? Steve here with Raking Profit. Welcome to another live show, afternoon special. And we've got my main man, Jason Slone, in the house. Jason is an eBay seller, more specifically a clothing seller, and he's been kicking butt lately with his videos. He's got a YouTube channel that goes by the name of Prof Sales. So just think of profit like Raking Profit, minus the IT. So Prof Sales is his YouTube channel. He's got an Instagram as well. And we've connected through the Green Room. He's a Green Room member, but also through his YouTube channel. He's been doing this awesome series regarding jeans and this 5,000 challenge, which we could talk about a little bit more later on. But really, really happy to have him here because in this show, we're going to be talking about how to run a home-based clothing business on eBay. So if you're coming to this video because you're a subscriber, or if you're coming, you never heard of us before, we're going to be sharing a whole bunch of things that have to do with how to start a business, how to get your keywords optimized, how to take really good pictures, the process involved, where to go to source clothing, how much to pay, and all the ins and outs. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Jason. Why don't you give yourself a little more of an introduction, tell people who you are, what you do, and let's just get the show on the road.
Sounds good, Steve. Well, thanks for the introduction. And I'm really excited to be here, guys, on Steve's channel, talking to you guys about clothing and reselling. My background in a pinch is just that I used to actually be a professor. That's also why the name Prof Sales. And I love teaching, and I also love selling. So it seemed kind of a symbiotic relationship to bring the two together. I worked in retail management for many years for a couple large retailers, including clothing. So when it came time to go in business for myself, I realized that, selling clothing and selling on eBay was something that appealed to me. So I like to sell, but I also like to teach. So that's why I started a channel as well. And Steve was one of the guys that inspired me early on. I think I watched a video with you, Steve, where you had items on your bed and your hand was in the video and you were going through pulling out brands.
I told you my folks.
It was great. And I was like, man, who is this guy? And I just kept watching, and a couple others like Ronnie Hart and so on. And, clothing was just what appealed to me and what made the most sense. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, today. But I'm really excited to be here. And thanks again, Steve, for having me on.
Cool, man. The good old days, man, doing thrift haul videos on my bed, had my whole inventory in my room. I was living at home with my parents, broke as a joke, just getting started. Good old days, right? Everyone, and I think that's a cool thing to talk about, right? Before we even get into our outline, we've got a whole outline of questions, and then we're going to be opening up the floor for Q&A. But I think it's important to realize that everybody starts somewhere, right? Like I was working at the Cracker Barrel 9 to 5, making $200 to $300 a week. I was living at home with my parents, and I had just gotten started with my eBay business. Now I was doing Craigslist a little bit, but I was, getting started. I had like 50 items in my inventory. I'm like sharing items that I found. It's all laid out in my bed. I've got a hanging mannequin on the wall in my bedroom, 150 square feet. What was your start, man, when you first got started?
My start, I had sold on eBay before, but I came back to it really full time about 2 years ago. And I'd worked in many other jobs for some other companies and just realized, I'm an entrepreneur and it just didn't fit for me to work for someone else. So when I started selling, I thought, what's going to make sense for me, sort of fits with my personality and experience. And that was part of the reason for clothing. But I got started, selling out of a spare bedroom. I was stacking items and hanging items everywhere I could. My inventory system was a joke. It was amazing I ever found anything. And I realized, I can do much better than this. And so I started looking into ways to mentally, start thinking about the business a little different, and then implementing some better systems and processes and growing the business from there. So it was from humble beginnings for sure.
Yep, that's awesome. That's good to know. I mean, a lot of people, they'll go on to YouTube or they'll join a Facebook group and they see these people who are making thousands of dollars. But what you don't realize is they've spent so much time behind the scenes building it up. And if you're brand new, just know, first of all, it's possible to make happen. And two, it's up to you. The cool thing about eBay is you get what you put into it, right? So if you put in 10 hours a week, you're going to get 10-hour results, right? But we're going to dive more into that in a little bit. First off, I want to say, There's a little bit of a video delay right now. There seems to be some interference going on right now. I'm from Connecticut. We got Jason in the Charlotte area, and there's a little bit of a delay. So if you're watching this in the background, you're not going to realize it, but the voice and the mouth movements are a little off. So we apologize about that. Before we get into it, guys, do us a big favor, and down below, there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down button. If you're enjoying this, if you're excited for this, if you want more videos like this, show us some support, show us some love, and hit that thumbs up. If you don't like it, feel free to give a thumbs down, but let us know in the comment section what we can do to improve this, or just ask us a question. We're here for you guys, and our goal for this show is to help you out as much as possible. So hit that like button, show some love. Let's shout a few people out, and then we're going to dive into this in one moment. We got Danny Sid in the house saying, hey there, good videos, 3 thumbs up. Stone Mason, we got Buddy, we got Team Tycoons. There's a person in the comment section. Instead of it being "Do you even lift?" it's "Do you even thrift?" I like that. That's awesome. Nice. Betty Ryan, what's going on, Betty? Good to see you. Outdoor Wrangler, outdoor is always in the comments. Better Barbie. Miguel from San Diego is saying hello. ComfortZoneStudios.com saying wish you the best. All right, cool. So let's get started, guys, and we'll be in the comment section periodically. So first question is, somebody want to start a business, right? They want to start a business on eBay, and maybe they came to this video and they're like, this is cool. Like, these guys are going to talk about how to run an eBay clothing business. But before that person even decides to get into a clothing business, let's talk about what are some of the reasons why, some of the top reasons why somebody should even consider selling clothing, on eBay versus, let's just say, electronics on Amazon, or, selling a product private label through Shopify. Why clothing and why eBay specifically?
That's a great question. And when you put that on the outline, I thought I might only come up with a couple things for it. And I actually came up with several. And I'll try to go through them kind of quickly because I don't want to take up too much time on it, but I think it's an important question. And I realized that the first thing was availability of clothing. There's a tremendous amount of inventory out in between all the different sources that are out there, thrift stores, retail stores, estate sales, yard sales, so on. The cost of that inventory is low. You can buy clothing relatively cheap. A lot of clothing can be had for under $10, in some cases under $5. The return on investment is pretty good. I mean, you're not going to get a 10x like, you buy something for $10 and sell it for $100. That's not the norm for sure with clothing, but it's pretty good. You can scale the business to a decent size by yourself, which I liked about it. You can also store it in your home. You probably already have storage in terms of closets or spare bedrooms or a garage or a utility shed in the backyard. You've got places you can store. It's not going to go out of style. I know that sounds, common sense, but people are not going to quit wearing clothing tomorrow. At least let's hope not.
We could only wish.
Yeah. Well, be careful. We might need to think about that one. You don't need a lot of special knowledge to sell it. Yes, you have to do some research, but it's not like you have to research, audio equipment from the 1960s or antiques from the 1880s. I mean, clothing is fairly simple, and you can quickly make a decision about its condition and its saleability. You can look at it. I know you, Steve, you could probably look at a shirt. You've seen that brand, and in probably 5 seconds, you can decide if you're going to put that in your cart or not. So it was for all those reasons. I'm probably forgetting some, but those were the reasons I came up with.
Yeah, that was quite the list right there. The one thing that connected with me is you can actually build this business up pretty substantially on your own, right? There is going to come a point where time is going to become an issue. And I always say this, that, right. One of the things that I like a little more about Amazon FBA versus eBay is being able to leverage the warehouses. Now, it's a different beast. I'm not here to say what's better. I think they both have they're good and bad. But there will be a time where if you want to take the next step, you could hire people, but you can at the same time, I remember when I had first gotten started, I built it up to doing between, $5,000 to $7,000 a month gross by myself, right? And I wasn't even putting in like 40 or 50 hours. So I definitely agree with that there.
Right.
Do you feel that it's best that new sellers focus on one type of item or diversify? How important is it for somebody to say, clothing's cool, but maybe I should dive into antiques, or maybe I should dive into electronics or other different types of items. Is it smart to diversify, do you feel, or what are your thoughts on that?
I'm probably going to go against the grain here a little bit and say I don't think it's that smart to diversify. And the reason why is because clothing is very brand oriented, as you well know. No matter, brand is everything. That's the first thing, and it's kind of everything in terms of what it's going to sell for. While you could make the argument, you could walk into a store and pull out all kinds of clothing from all kinds of different areas. I mean, and I know a lot of people that appeals to them, the whole picking idea. I'm going to go in and find all this cool different stuff. Who knows what I'll find? It's just hard to be expert enough in it to do that. I mean, you've really got to put in the time. If you want to learn all the best shirts to sell and the brands and sizes and fits, the best jeans, the best shoes, the best belts, the best dresses. I mean, it's a huge learning curve to learn all that. It can be done. People have done it. You've sold multiple types. But I think it's better to focus in a category first. I'm not saying a specific brand, but a category. It's so like, hey, I'm going to go sell men's shirts. Or go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. No. Feel free to talk. Do you want to keep going? You want me to jump in?
No. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So you're saying that. I guess my question, I kind of stated it a little wrong. What I meant to say, and I think you already answered it, was like when you get started with clothing, start to focus on one specific category, like learn jeans first. Is that what you're saying? Like master jeans and then move on to button front shirts?
Yeah, or at least, get into, I don't know if that goes so far as to say master. I don't know if you ever will, because some of these categories are so diverse and they do change over time. But at least have an idea how to go in and research an area, a category, a niche, if you will, and say, all right, I know how to go into this store and source men's shoes, dress shoes. It's like, here's the 10 brands or 20 brands I'm looking for. Here's the condition, what sizes, and at least have an idea so that you're not always going in and it's like the shiny object syndrome where you're going to, let me grab that. Let me grab. Well, then you get home and realize, this had a stain, or this is not the size that sells well, or this brand used to be hot 10 years ago, or, it's kind of that sort of mentality.
To go a step further as well, I mean, especially with clothing, like you've got to go through the entire rack. You can't just discriminate. Like, I've had times where I just kind of pick, but I know I'm missing out on stuff. Like if you're just jumping from like, going through a few jeans, going through a few button front shirts, going through a few ties, like you're missing out big time. Now, again, time is money, and it takes time to go through it, but I really say instead of jumping all around, go through the whole entire jean rack, because I don't know about where you live. And actually, when I was in the South in North Carolina, there was like a really good opportunity for clothing. When I was on my 30 and 90-day trip, I was doing Amazon exclusively, and I hated it over there. Like I couldn't stand the thrift stores. There was like no books. Like, I don't know.
Nothing.
They send it all into Goodwill. But anyways, that's another story. But there was an abundance of clothing. And I don't know if you saw one of my posts maybe a year ago. I found this most ridiculous Robert Graham shirt. It was like pure gold. Like it was the craziest looking thing ever. I think I sold it for like $150 or $200. But like the clothing over there was just like amazing. But the point I'm trying to get at is it was so jam-packed. You've got to go through the whole entire rack, because you don't know if there's going to be a True Religion pair of jeans stuck in the middle.
No, I totally agree. And, on a separate category, I saw a woman sourcing this past weekend, and she was scanning with a scan fob, scanning books, but she was cherry picking. And I'm going, that defeats the purpose of the scan fob, because you're just as well saying, well, let me just pull up the Amazon seller app and see if that book's good. The point of a scan fob is going through all the books. The point of going through a clothing rack is, we've had times like this past weekend, Karen was with me sourcing, my girlfriend, and she pulled 6 Miss Me's in a row. Jeans. If she'd have just cherry picked and went by that section, she'd have never seen any of it, but we go through every single one. So you got to do that.
Do you find that certain clothing items sell best during a particular time or year? Or do you find that, by selling on eBay and being able to touch, all over the country domestically, but also internationally, that doesn't really have that big of an impact on your clothing business? I've got an answer for this, but I want to hear what your thoughts are on it.
Well, eBay has that new sourcing guidelines tool that I don't know if everybody's got access to it yet. It came out a few weeks ago, and it shows the curve of sales of clothing on eBay. And there is a dip in the summer. However, the summer months, at least in the United States. However, that's depends on what you're selling, right? I mean, you can sell things all year round, for sure. But in general, people go on more vacations in the summer, and school's out. They're wearing shorts. They're not wearing as many clothes, in particular. So I think there is a dip in the summer if you're a clothing reseller, but the rest of the year, I'm not sure it matters. I mean, I think you can sell shorts even in December. I mean,
Yep.
You shouldn't shortchange yourself and say, "Oh, this won't sell now." Cara and I were just having a discussion about something she wanted to sell, and say, "Well, if I buy it now, it's out of season." And I'm like, "Well, let's get in and try it."
Yeah.
It's capris or something. And I'm like, I think you can sell all year round with clothing, honestly, on eBay.
Yeah, we don't even have to dive deep into that because I agree with you 100% on that. So, glad we're on the same page. Anyways, how have you seen the market change over the last couple of years on eBay? I hear a lot of people saying, eBay's. Let me rephrase that. I hear a lot of people saying that clothing is great. I'm making good money on it. You just got to put in the work. The brands are out there at the thrift store, garage sales. You just got to be creative and go make it happen. And then you hear others, and we were kind of talking about this before, how it's so important to surround yourself with positive people. And you said that was one of the reasons why you like the green room, is because it was very positive.
Right.
But do you feel that the market's changed and it's harder to find brands now? Do you find that there's more competition? Do you find that, like, is there still money to be made? What are your thoughts?
See, this is where the professor in me always tries to analyze it, and it's a curse and a gift at the same time. But basically, it becomes this confirmation bias. I mean, you're going to see what you want to see and take from it what you want to take. Are there potentially more sellers on eBay and Amazon, specifically eBay? Maybe, but there's also more buyers. The population is increasing. People are moving towards online sales. Online hasn't peaked by any means when you compare it to brick and mortar sales. So I think a lot of that is probably overblown, but I think it always comes back to this. It doesn't matter really whether there's more sellers or more buyers. What matters is, can you differentiate yourself from the competition? Can you, if you're going to sell t-shirts and there's 50,000 other t-shirt sellers on eBay, you want to try to be the best one. I mean, if you can be the best t-shirt seller, it's not going to matter what seller number 8,250 is doing. I mean, really what you control are your listings, your keywords, your photos, what you buy, how much you buy it for. I mean, those things are in your control. You cannot control eBay and Amazon, what happens with them. So it's like, I don't spend too much time worrying about that stuff, Steve. It's sort of, I don't know, it's wasted energy, I think.
Have you ever found, and I've actually done experiments with myself, and I've gone into a thrift store, allowing myself to be negative and allowing myself to think things like, oh, a reseller just walked out. Like, this place is there's nothing in here. Like, I'm human. I think we all get this sometimes where we're just in a negative state, right? And then there's other times where we're just like, we're going to dominate. We're going to smash this. We're going to go in and find everything. When I go into a thrift store and I'm thinking negative, and it happens from time to time, I'm just being honest, I don't find anything, because your negative thoughts will blind you from actually spending the time to go through the whole entire rack, to look underneath that box, to scan that extra row of books. Whereas when you're on fire and you're like, I just got done watching freaking Prof Sales, man. He's killing it. I'm going to go in there and find jeans. You're flying through all the jeans. You find them because you're positive and you're looking through it. So I agree with you 100% on that, for sure. Let's dive into what are some of your favorite brands to sell on eBay. And I do want to put a disclaimer and say, while you may think this is the most important thing in making money on eBay, it's not, because it's very easy to be able to do your research and study. But let's just throw off a few things. I think a lot of the value is in the systems and the motivation. That's just me. But let's throw out a few brands that you enjoy selling when it comes to clothing.
Well, slight disclaimer here. When I first started selling jeans on eBay, I thought Levi's weren't really high-end enough to sell. And the market told me, you're completely wrong, Prof. Levi's is by far the most popular brand on eBay. I mean, they have anywhere usually around 1 million listings, I think, depending on, sometimes even more than that. And American Eagle is a really well-known brand on there too. But Levi's and American Eagle, for the most part, are and butter brands, you're not going to make a tremendous amount of money on those. But you are going to find a lot of them. So that's great. But I like a brand. There's a brand I like called Coogee. It's an Australian brand.
Oh yeah.
They sell these, you've probably seen it. They sell these usually large pairs of jeans. I mean, they're like
5 feet wide.
Yeah, 5 feet wide and just like
Parachutes.
long too. I'm like, who are these giants they're selling these to?
I don't ever see humans like that walking around this Earth's surface.
It's like Shaquille O'Neal couldn't even fit in this thing.
For
it's so
real.
big. But I love those. It's an Australian brand. It's a little more niche-y, and they sell really well overseas. So you have to kind of be the global shipping or sell overseas kind of eBay seller to sell those. But they're great. They make great pictures. And, you know, pictures tell everything with clothing, which we'll talk about that. But Miss Me, which I mentioned, Miss Me is a 100% sell-through brand for me in denim. It's 100% sell-through. I mean, if you list a pair of Miss Me jeans, I'd pretty much bet the money in my wallet versus money in your wallet, you're going to sell it probably within 30 days, maybe less. It depends. You know, Miss Me is just 100% sell-through. It's a very popular brand with women. And I really like 7Fam, 7 for All Mankind. And those brands have some different tiers too. I mean, I had them down as Coogee's a little more semi-rare. Miss Me is rarer. 7Fam is plentiful. You'll find tons of them. Coogee will make a good margin. Miss Me a higher margin. 7Fam sort of decent. And those are just 3 that I always like to really be on the lookout for. I mean, I've got a list in my head that, you know, is probably 50 brands deep now at this point. But those 3 I really care for. And of course, Levi's and American Eagle, because there's just so many of them.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for the brands for sure. You know, you folks that are watching who are new, you'll get acquainted with these brands quite quick. And when you're flipping through, your eye will recognize it and you'll stop. And either you're going to say to yourself, I know this is a great brand, or it's going to be like, wait a second, like I could have sworn I heard about this brand. That ever happened to you where you're like, wait a second, like you stop and you're like, what is this? And then you look it up and you're like, that was the brand that Ronnie Hart was talking about. That's happened to me so many times. What was I going to say? Okay, my question was, do you have like an average price per sale? And again, another disclaimer. Everybody has a different business model, so don't just follow what he says or I say in terms of what my bottom line is. But do you have like a minimum price that you're looking to buy based on your business model, taking into consideration eBay fees, PayPal fees, cost of goods, supplies, your time, profit, all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I get asked that a lot. And, you know, I'm a top-rated seller on eBay. I have a store, so, you know, I save some on the fees and all that good stuff. And that's a discussion for a whole nother video. But I like to net at least, I like to net at least $10 on every pair of jeans I pick up, because I know kind of what my time and equity in those jeans is. And so I want to net that as a minimum. To do that, I need to be able to sell them for about $18 plus shipping. I do charge shipping. I didn't used to. I used to be a free shipper, the Amazon model. But on eBay, I just think it makes a little more sense for clothing, because you do get a few more returns and so on because of sizing and so on. I don't think I really get a lot of returns, though, believe it or not. But I really want to make net at least $10 on a pair of jeans. And around that price point is what I can do. Now, I can drop and go lower as items sit for a while. If they sit, I want to move them because I want to get that capital and reinvest it, get it back out. But I want to try to make at least $10. And I know around an $18 sell-through, or an $18 price point, I can do that. And there's lots of jeans you can sell on eBay for $18. The brands I just mentioned were 3 of them. And there's plenty of bread and butter brands that'll sell for that as well.
Do you ever find like the high-end brand Diesel?
I do. I don't find a lot of Diesel, and the Diesel I find there's some kind of sort of lower end ones, like the Service Spa Diesel, for instance, is a little bit lower end and so on. And in men's, I almost never find them, strangely enough, in my area. So
I found a pair of jeans the other day, first time, brand new with tags. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of it. Really high end, Naked and Famous. Have you ever heard of that brand? You ever find it before?
No.
It's crazy, man. There's so many. There's so many brands out there that I've never found, right? That I've never, ever found. And I'm just like, I know one day that I will. And the same with you guys out there watching. You might be hearing some of these brands that Jason's spitting out and you're like, I've never found it. Will I ever find it? You may not. But that's the cool thing about researching, because there's been times I've researched a specific brand and I find it 2 years later. So that's definitely really, really cool. Let's go to the
Yeah.
comments real quick, guys. Before the show, I said, Jason, I said, considering this is an afternoon show, I don't think we're going to have many people watching. I was thinking, maybe 40 or 50. We're up to 170 people watching live right now. So I want to give
It's
everybody
awesome.
out there who's watching live a big shout out. Thank you, guys. Do any of you work? No, I'm just kidding. Smash that like button. Smash that like button, guys. We're at 77, 171 people watching live, only 77 likes. Now, I'm not a professor, right? I'm going to be honest. I'm not a professor, but Jason is. What's going on there, man? 81 likes, 172 people watching live. There's something going on, man.
They need to smash
it.
the like button. You know, that's your catchphrase, Steve. I always give you credit now when I say that on my channel.
Yeah.
As Steve Rakin says, smash that like button. So that's your phrase.
I typically show up to other people's live shows and I say one phrase, smash that like button, and then I leave.
Yep, you do.
So, just got to mark my territory. Anyways, guys, let's move on. Do you want to answer a few questions in the comment feed, or do you want to keep moving with the outline? What do you think? You want to give the people what they want?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
What do we got?
What do we got here for questions? Wow, there are some interesting little comments coming in here. Did you see the trampoline one? Yikes.
I saw Ronnie's.
Yeah, we got Ronnie Hart in the comment section right now. Man, if you guys aren't following Ronnie, look him up right now. Hart's Pickers. I mean, this is one of the guys who got me started. I'm telling you guys, go back to his old thrift hauls. And I'm telling you, you're going to learn so much about brands. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yep. Uncle Picker's asking, sorry, what'd you say, Jason?
I'm saying Ronnie's one of my mentors too. You and he are the two that I really focused in on when I started. So
yeah, if it wasn't for Ronnie, I don't think I would have been able to even scale my business past a couple $1,000s, because he motivated me so much. So I really want to take some time to show some appreciation to him. Uncle Picker is asking, what's your shipping go-to on jeans? Poly bags, regular shipping, or priority? Or I'm going to throw one more in there. Padded flat rate envelopes?
Padded flat rate envelopes for the win. And Ronnie's going to disagree with me and say, well, you can get the flat rate envelopes that are a little cheaper, and they are, but the padded flat rate, you can fit a huge pair of jeans in there. I mean, I've gotten a size 50.
They stretch.
They stretch, and they also seal better, and they're not, if they get wet, they're not going to get, fall apart. I mean, it's possible. And plus, I think the perception that people get is just that they're nice. Oh, they padded my jeans. I don't put them in a bag. It's used jeans I'm selling for the most part, and I can ship anywhere in the United States for $5.90 with those. So that's pretty cheap.
I've gotten my items rejected quite a few times. Bringing it to the post office when I put it in the flat rate envelope, they've actually rejected it and saying you can't have it thicker than a certain amount. Happened to me multiple times. Now, this was a couple of years ago when I was going full time, and I stopped using them, and I moved over to the padded flat rate envelopes. But I'm interested if this has happened to anybody else. They used to bring this little measuring thing up, and it can't be thicker than this. So
never heard that before, but that's good to know.
That was weird. Let's see. How long do new sellers stay in eBay jail with regards to selling limits? I love the way he put that.
That's a great question from Christine, I think.
Or she, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it was Christine Allen. So that,
yep.
Ronnie's got an answer there too. Call them and ask them to make your limits higher. I have actually never called, and my limits went up very quickly. I think it comes down to playing eBay's game, trying to do longer returns than what they require. Of course, a great seller rating and great feedback is critical, especially when you're first starting out. And people sometimes will mess with you a little bit when you first start on eBay. So you want to sell things that are not going to get returns. You're not going to get all this negative feedback. And they actually moved me up very, very quickly. I'm up to about 5,000 listings now in terms of availability. And I'm working towards getting to that goal. But you just got to do it right. It's really that simple. You've got to do everything right and take care of your customers. And they are your customers. They're not annoyances. They're not there to make your life difficult. They're not there trying to screw you over. They are your customers. And if you treat them that way with respect and try to take care of them, they will take care of you, and so will eBay. So that's my advice.
Awesome. Let's dive back into the outline. Where to find profitable used clothing. Let's talk about some of your strategies for how you find new clothes to sell and maybe anything else. We talked about thrift stores. I mean, is that your main way to find clothing, or do you have any other strategies?
Thrift stores are key for me because I'm selling a lot of used. And I am very, as you mentioned earlier, Steve, this area has a tremendous amount of clothing available, and the prices are pretty reasonable. Shirts are $4, jeans are $5, shoes are like $5. I mean, there's all kinds of things here. And I live in an area, the Charlotte area alone has about 19 or 20 stores within 45 minutes drive in terms of Goodwills. And that's not even counting some Value Villages, some other thrift stores that are here. It's a big population, 1.5 million people in the metropolitan area. But yard sales, estate sales can be amazing, especially estate sales. Estate sales can have tremendous clothing available just because, someone is usually trying to get rid of their whole estate, but they're focused on the big hard goods items like, electronics and furniture. They don't care about clothing. They just want it gone. So you'll go in and find it's not as popular now, but Peter Millar shirts for like $1, and I go in and wardrobe myself, forget even reselling a lot of times, Ralph Lauren, all kinds of nice brands that you can flip really easy. And they're usually in great shape because they're still in someone's home. They haven't gotten donated. They're not sitting in an attic. They're actually hanging in their closet. I used to wear this just a week ago, so estate sales are amazing for that, but you've got to have your minds to that. And the other thing about estate sales, you probably won't have a lot of competition there. Most people are not looking for clothes in estate sales. So those are great too. And of course, Craigslist, sometimes you can find them, but Craigslist, a lot of times people want like eBay prices. It's a little tricky, at least in my area. So all those areas, and I'm sure I'm leaving some out.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to keep moving along, skip through a few things on this outline because we are at the halfway mark, and I want to make sure to have some time at the end for some more Q&A because I feel like there's a lot of value in just answering people's questions directly. So we're going to move on to keyword research. Let's talk about how do you do keyword research to optimize your eBay listings. Let's first off say, what the heck does keyword research mean? What is even a keyword for anyone who doesn't even understand what we're talking about? And let's go through the process of kind of choosing your keywords when you make your listings.
Right. I mean, when you think about it, this is the way I think about it. I put myself in the buyer's mindset and say, all right, if I wanted to buy, in my case, I sell a lot of jeans, so we'll stick with jeans for a month. If I wanted to buy a new pair of jeans or a pre-owned pair of jeans in this case, what would I search for? And basically with jeans, people search for three things. They search for brand, they search for fit, and they search for size. Those three are key. And those three are actually will work in a lot of clothing items. If you're going to buy some new shoes, some new Nikes, you're going to search for Nike size 11. That's going to be the starting point for a lot of people. So those types of words need to be in your title, and you don't need to have words like and or the or for prepositions. They don't need to be there, and words that don't really mean anything. And that's the ones that drive me nuts as a reseller. When I see titles that are like good condition in a title, like nobody searches for good condition. I want a shirt in good condition. Well, of course you want it in good condition. You're not going to buy a rag, so you're kind of wasting all those characters that eBay gives you. And what that does, guys, is that pushes you further down in the search rankings. When you're using keywords that don't mean anything and you're taking up that space, or you're not putting the words in that do mean something, you're hurting your listing's visibility. And if people don't find you, if you're on page 67, they're not going to find you more than likely, so you've got to make sure your keywords, and you can do that. Like, Steve, you've talked about this before. You can look at other people's listings that are big sellers or seem to really have professional looking, listings, and you can copy their format, just apply it to what you're selling. That's a great way to start, and you can tweak it as you go, but that's a great way to get started with keywords, in my opinion.
Yeah, typically what I do is I actually do a pretty easy kind of lazy man's way of doing it. And what I do is, say, for example, I have a pair of loudmouth golf short size large that I'm looking to sell, which I've actually got right in front of me on a mannequin. I would type that into the search bar on eBay and hit sold listings, and I'll find the top 3 listings that have sold for really good money because it's proven that that item has sold. Now, there's other factors that may have caused it to sell. Might have been running a sale, great pictures, so on and so forth. But I pretty much take those listings and I hit sell similar or sell like item, something like that on my phone. And it copies their entire title. And then I just switch things out. Do you ever do anything like that, or do you start from scratch?
I really don't, but mine, here's my trick. And we were talking about listing, so I'll go ahead and share it. I list from my iPad. And the great thing about iPads, if you have one, is, they have a predictive function where they can predict, the words you're getting ready to type after you type a letter or two. Well, after you've typed American Eagle 10,000 times, or Levi's 10,000 times, or Miss Me 100 times, it's got, and it's going to predict what you're about to put, so you can hit that next word. So like if I'm selling American Eagle, we'll say, I'm going to type American Eagle jeans, favorite boyfriend, size 6 regular, women's stretch. Done. And it's going to predict all those words. So I'm literally just touching one button to get used to those words to come up. So my title is really quick. And it also, I don't use the templates really. I don't find them that great for the way I list. But because so many of my listings are similar in how they're going to look, I don't find it prohibitive to really, go ahead and type when I'm doing it. I mean, I do a jeans listing in just a little over 3 minutes. Now that's not the photos. The photos are different,
Sure,
but
sure.
the actual listing part's about 3 minutes, if that. So I can really power through some listings that way. But I know other people use templates and you sell similar, like you're talking about. I don't think you got to find what works for you in that situation.
Awesome, man. Cool. So let's dive a little more into the process of listing clothing on eBay in order to maximize profits. What's your process? Let's start with do you batch your tasks? For example, what I mean by batching is, instead of just taking a clothing item and going through the whole process of maybe you freaking get the wrinkles out, then you measure it, then you photograph it, then you sit down, you upload your pictures, however you do it, you list it. That's just a streamlined process. Do you batch it in terms of you take all the pictures of all 10 items and then you move on and then you measure all 10 items? What's your process?
Well, Karin, luckily my girlfriend helps me in this business, so I do have that advantage over somebody going solo, but it doesn't really matter. We would still do it the same way if it was just single.
Sure.
A couple things. First, I think you have to have a designated photo and processing area, or and an area to list, because if you're doing too much in one area, it's not efficient when you're walking and stepping over things. So you need a little room to be able to work, and that's important. The other thing that we've learned too is that for us, it works well. She will batch photos together after they're edited and send them to me. And we do batches. We just do numerical batches and say, all right, this is batch number 50, and it's got, it's got 12 pair of jeans in it. And she shoots that to me. And here's the 12 pair of jeans stacked on a shelf. We have a processing shelf area. These jeans you see behind me actually are waiting to be processed. This is actually what we bought this past weekend. Just these.
Sweet, man.
So, and I just had a couple videos on that, but, and we drop the photos to the iPad and actually the phone as well. And I'll tell you why we do to both. Because I list on my iPad, but actually I like to have the photo up on my phone as I'm going, because sometimes I'll need to look at something in one of the photos and it's inefficient to keep jumping back out of the listing on the iPad and go back to the photos and then go back to the listing. I'd rather stay in the listing and just look at it, and say, oh, it's the inseam's this, it's 34. All right, got it. Or it's got some wear down at the bottom. All right, I'm typing that in, that's there. So that's some things we do. And also the last thing I was going to say to that, Steve, is just, man, you got to have an inventory system. I mean, it's fine when you're selling 5 or 10 things on eBay and you stuff them all in a bin. But when you get up to like 50 or 100 or 100, I still run I had some issues this morning. I had sold 2 things in September that I had I didn't have any record of selling them in my records. And I'm like, how did I miss these? You've got to have an inventory system and other systems too, but you've got to have a way to be able to store things and find them quickly and get your hands on them and ship them and pack them, because that's what people expect. You can't wait for days and days. So it's all those things, and I'm probably forgetting things, but yeah, we have all those processes in place for sure.
Do you mind talking real quick about your system that you use for being able to find items? I used to have a system where I would put a little piece of masking tape on a clothing hanger and I would associate a letter and a number to it, and it would be associated to different tiers of my clothing racks, and I'd be able to just, in my listing I'd put A50, and when it sold I'd go to the A rack, I'd go down to number 50, and I'd find it that way. Seems to be 2 schools of thought on this. There's that method, and then there's the bins. I peg you as a bin kind of guy, but I could be wrong.
Well, I actually use these shelves as my inventory system, and I have a room upstairs that has 6 of these, and the ones I have up there are actually a little taller.
So that's a new system. That's not even A or B. That's C, the shelf system.
Well, and it is, but it becomes bins. And here's why. So this is what I wanted, something that I could grow with and would grow with me as, you know, I scaled upwards, right? And we're getting ready to move that into the big bedroom, and we're going to move our bed into the small bedroom because the inventory is outgrowing the small bedroom. But I know it's like reseller problems, right? But this system, just to give you guys, the viewers, an example, the way it would work is you'd have an area, we'll say it's area A. You would have a fixture. We'll say it's fixture number 1. Let's say this is fixture number 1. And then you would have shelves, and we would start at the bottom, shelf 1, shelf 2, shelf 3, shelf 4, right? And then you'd have a spot. So this is shelf 3, and that's bin number 1. So if I was making up an inventory tag for a pair of jeans that sat there, and they're actually in sequential order, each item has an item number, just a numerical number, nothing fancy. So this would be area A, fixture 1, shelf 3, bin 1, so that would be A131. I know that seems a little complicated, and I actually have a couple videos on the channel which explain this, and it's actually an inventory system that companies like Amazon use. You know, theirs is more complicated, obviously, but it's the same concept because I can add on to that, and if I get a second fixture, it becomes number 2. If I have to make a whole nother area, it can be area B and area C. So that's the great thing about it. It can expand out with you, and on a spreadsheet when I list the item, and that's it.
So you said it's somewhat similar to Amazon's. My question for you is, do you have a robot that actually picks the item out for you and ships it?
I do. I do. His name is Jason. He's an alter ego. Every morning he walks in that room up there. Yeah. Inventory is important, though. I mean, you've got to, yeah, exactly. You got to be able to find your stuff, you know, and you got to have some sort of system. I don't care what it is. Once you grow, trust me, you're going to thank whoever, however you got a system, if it works for you, you're going to thank, because I used to have them sitting on a table and just in stacks. I went, this is ridiculous. I'm like, you know, that stacks underneath, and I'm like, this. So I had to come up with something. That's what I came up with, and it's worked really well.
There's one thing that platforms like eBay and Amazon hate most. Like, they hate it. They absolutely hate it. And this is probably one of the easiest ways to eventually get your account suspended or possibly kicked off, is to consistently cancel orders. So imagine that you sell 5 items and then you can't find them all. You're going to have to cancel those orders out. They're going to open cases. These platforms hate it. They absolutely hate it because it's a horrible buying experience. You know, when somebody makes a decision to give money and buy it, they in their mind, they've already got it. And when you cancel that order, I've done it before, didn't have a system, found the item like 2 years later. It's not good. So yeah, that's really important. Let's talk about how to take pictures like a boss. But before we dive into that, let's see what's going on in the comment section real quick. 174 people watching live. That's spectacular.
That's awesome.
So I don't think I've ever had this many live viewers, man, during an afternoon. So maybe everyone's getting they took the day off for the presidential debate tonight. Who knows, getting all ready for that. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. A lot of people in the house. Be sure to smash that like button, everybody. Hit that button, show some love. How do you take pictures like a boss, Jason, man? Somebody wants to come in, they want to be the boss, they want to take good pictures. I'm kind of joking, but seriously, how do people take, you know, good pictures to stand out from the average clothing item that's thrown on the floor, or the kitty cat's in the background, or whatever?
Well, I got to give you credit there because you're one of the first people I started watching for picture advice, as well as a lot of other advice. And I think we would be on the same page if I said that there's 3 things that are important, and they're all under one heading: lighting, lighting, lighting. Got to have good lighting, and you're selling clothing, guy. Very good. There we go, right? I could show you mine, but I'm afraid to turn this thing around. There's so many things connected to this Mac. I'm afraid the whole table will come apart. You've got to have great lighting. You're selling clothing, and the pictures are going to sell your item or not. It's just that simple. And if people can't see it, they might buy it. But if they got a choice between yours and someone who has better lighting, they're going to take that one because they can see the item. The other thing I wrote down was what features are important to your buyer to emphasize. I sell a lot of jeans. So the butt shot, you know, the shot pulled up, you know, it's laid out like this, and you're taking a shot of the design on the back. That's a key feature of jeans for women and for men, believe it or not. So that is usually my first picture when I list a pair of jeans, and anything else special about the jean, obviously. Photos with the measurements visible. That was the third key, because I'm selling, I take one with the inseams, the cuffs, the waistband. That also gives me a key too. If somebody comes back later and asks a question that I did not answer in the item specifics or description, I can very quickly look at the pictures and figure something out rather than having to go and get the item and, pull out a measuring. I mean, that's really inefficient. And then lastly is just focus. I mean, your pictures have to be in focus, I mean, that just, should really have to say that, Steve? Shouldn't that be kind of commonsensical? I think they should be.
Yeah,
focused.
I think some people use cameras that don't focus very well, and I think a big problem is you guys have to realize in order for the camera to focus, you need good lighting. Like, it's not going to focus in the dark. It's just not going to work.
Right.
Let's talk about cameras real quick. I know you use your iPad. I use my iPhone, and this thing focuses like a boss. I'm telling you right now, the iPhone 6S Plus.
Yep.
Bada bing, bada boom. The good pictures are coming soon. I'm telling you right now, this thing's a beast. The iPad, the iPhone, is that the 6S or is that a different one?
Yeah.
6S. I love it. I love the iPhone. I've also had experience with the Canon ELPH line. The 110's really good. The 300, the 330, the 350. Canon ELPH. Have you ever used any traditional like point and shoot cameras or DSLRs?
We have tried. Unfortunately for me, because I am more of a volume kind of guy these days, I have to be able to quickly get the photos to the mobile app, and going Apple to Apple makes the most sense for us. DSLR, nothing wrong with it. You can take tremendous pictures, but that whole process of importing and moving photos around
takes
is
a
kind
long
of frustrating
time.
sometimes.
I used to do it. It takes a long time until you go mobile and you realize.
Yeah, and plus sometimes they get out of order, and you're, oh man, it's just it's really annoying sometimes.
It's a pain in the butt. Like, I'm gonna just put it right out there. Like, now that I've gone mobile, and I'm never looking back. Like, thinking back to when I had my office space and we were doing, over 100 listings per week, right? We were blasting through it. Having to import it to your computer takes time, and then you got to find the file, then you have to upload it to eBay. Like, I don't recommend doing it anymore. I really don't. I think that a lot of people are held back in an eBay business because there's so, like, the time that it takes. If you could take that element out and cut out the whole importing into your computer, taking off the SD card, like, I think it's going to help people so much more to get started and to get the ball rolling. The biggest problem with people with clothing is they don't do it long enough to get the ball rolling. They don't get up to 200-300 listings.
Right. Agreed. And these cameras now and these phones are so good. I mean, they really are top notch. And for what you're doing, they make sense, I think. And if you're listing with mobile apps, I'm telling you, it's the way to go. You will thank me. And Steve, you're on board. Yep. It sounds like too, because so many headaches will be avoided.
What are your thoughts on a mannequin and the background, and then kind of how do you take pictures of jeans? Let's start with mannequin and background.
Don't use a mannequin. I've thought about it, but it's just a lot of time and cumbersome to get on and off. We have thought about it, and we're about speed. Plain background in terms of like a table that's nice, has a nice contrast. We've used white. We've used a table background, different colors. The background shouldn't distract from your product. And we kind of take the Amazon approach. If Amazon lets you upload a photo, they want it to take 80% of the item has to take up 80% of the photo. And we kind of do that too. Like, we feel like people aren't buying a background. They're buying an item, and they want to see as much of the items you can. And it's hard with jeans because they don't really photograph as easy as you think. We don't do the on the ground shot, spread out. I know some sellers do. I just look at it like when it's on the ground, people's perception can be it's not worth as much, but that's just my take on it. So.
Cool. Awesome. Let's get into one more question, then we're going to open up the floor for Q&A. So folks, get your questions ready. And what I want you to do is, if you have a question, write the word question in all caps and then have your question following so I could see it. But the last question is, before we get into the questions, is how do you educate yourself on eBay to consistently grow your business? What strategies do you have to learn? When someone was to take a look at, 10,000 feet above, how are you educating yourself? What are all the things that you're doing to learn how to buy and sell and do eBay and all that fun stuff?
That's a great question. And I don't think it gets enough play in the reseller community a lot of times. I wrote down 3 things, and I like to write things down just so I don't forget. But I think once you've kind of established a niche for yourself, if let's say it's clothing and you're selling shoes, once you've done that, think about diversifying your offerings, not only within the niche, but even that's a time you need to think about a time when you can go outside into a different category. And you may find out it doesn't work for you for whatever reason. Maybe you can't source it cheap enough. You don't have any passion for it. You don't like dealing with the other issues around that particular, that's fine, but you need to diversify your offerings. That keeps it new and fresh. And if you're not growing, you're getting stale and you're falling behind. So you got to always keep growing, I think. Watching YouTube content for how the experts do it. And let me define what an expert is. And Steve, you're really good about this. I know you've had tons of videos where you've shown cool things you've gotten and so on, but you also have a ton of content about here's how to take pictures. Here's how to do inventory. Here's how to ship something out. Here's how to do an Amazon FBA shipment. That is critical. I mean, there's tremendous knowledge out there. It's all over the place. Some is better than others, obviously, but you've got to go outside your comfort zone, and you're not going to know that. I try to watch or listen to at least one educational resource every single day. And that way and sometimes I just hear it and I'm like, all right, I kind of know this, but I usually still pick up something, even if it's a lot of what I already know. And the last thing is your mindset, expanding your mental awareness. And you do a really good job about this as well. Just your awareness of being an entrepreneur. I mean, this is about mindsets, about processes. It's about growing and evolving. It's not about I'm going out and buying myself a job. And I'm just going to go out and I'm going to buy these 10 items and sell these 10 items. You've got to think beyond that sometimes if you want to grow and evolve in this business. And because it's going to change. You know, that's the one thing we know that's constant, right? Whether it's eBay or Amazon, so you've always got to kind of keep your mindset looking forward. I think that's critically important. So those would be 3 I would recommend to everyone.
Awesome, man. That was definitely a phenomenal response right there. And I think everyone's appreciating it. A lot of people enjoying this video so far. A lot of great comments. 183 people watching live. 143 likes. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Now we're going to get into the last segment of the show. Got about 10 minutes left, and we're going to do some open floor Q&A and just answer some questions. So again, guys, if you have a question, capitalize the word question, follow your question after that so I can see. There's a lot of comments coming in. Question from Outdoor Wrangler saying, question, Steve. I know you used to have the Note 4 cell phone, which is what I have. Do you feel that iPhone is better? I've always been an Android, Samsung, and I'm just having a hard time switching. Yes. You know, I'm not biased. I came from the Android world, and now I have the iPhone, and I'm not kidding. This phone is better with everything. All the apps run better. The Amazon Seller app runs better. The eBay app runs better. The picture quality is a lot better. It's smoother. I'm no tech wizard, but I like this phone a lot more. So I'm going to give the Note 4 and I enjoyed the Note 4 because I never really had a phone like that. I used to have crummy phones. So to me, like the Note 4 was a 10 until I got the iPhone. Now that I have the iPhone, I would rate the Android Note 4 like a 5 and then the iPhone a 10. So that's my answer right there. Question from Shop Northwest. What's going on, SN? Question, how many items are you listing a day? Want to touch on that, Jason? I know you got a 5,000 gene contest going on. So maybe you could talk about both of those.
Yeah, we kind of, we've been kind of tweaking that number, but basically we're trying to list 150 per week. That's our goal. And we typically spread that over 5 days, so 30 a day. Doing 30 gene listings a day is not really tremendously challenging. That's probably about 3 hours to do that. 3 solid hours, not 15 minutes and then 15 minutes playing Candy Crush. So you really got to stay on it. But that's about what we do, and we know we can go higher. We know we can probably push 50 and maybe even 60 a day. That's kind of where we think we will top out and become our own bottleneck. And we're looking at ways to
that's great.
Maybe have a listing assistant down the road, and there's some options for that. I know other people have done that and so on, and we may go that route as well to get to 5,000.
So somebody was asking about taxes. We're not going to dive into the nitty gritty. I've got some videos I just did the other day with Anna Hill, who is an accountant, and definitely watch that video. It's a few videos back. But do you have a CPA and whatnot for your business, or do you do your own taxes?
I'm currently looking for one, a new one. I've got a couple I've been talking to, so we are in the market for one.
Cool, awesome. If you need any referrals, hit me up behind the scenes. I hired somebody who's out of state, And a lot of people think that you have to hire a CPA that's in state. You actually don't nowadays.
Hmm.
Nowadays, it's quite easy to find a reputable CPA who you
Right.
trust that doesn't live near you with the internet and faxing and everything. So definitely hit me up behind the scenes.
I will.
Question, Prof, what's your best demographic sales area? Men's, women's, kids, large, small.
That's we don't sell kids for various reasons. It's definitely men's a little bit, but here's the caveat to that, Steve, and you can probably appreciate this. You're going to find in my area 6 times as many women's as you are men's jeans, every bit. So if you say, well, I'm just going to go sell men's jeans, good luck with that. You're going to come out of the store with 2 pair. So I mean, you've really got to think about. I would love it if the store would have 500 pair of men's jeans, but that's just not the way it works. So it's absolutely women's. It's actually a lot of mid-range sizes have been selling lately, and of course, larger sizes sell well. I think that's pretty common knowledge. But the mid-range sizes, like around like an 8 to 12 now, I'm seeing quite a bit of sell-through in the last couple months with the cooler weather.
Yep.
So that would be my answer to that. So hopefully that answered the question. I think I did.
Yeah. Question from Bethany Baldwin. Have you ever sold any vintage jeans? I heard there are huge profits in certain Levi's.
There's the infamous Big E, which I think were made before 71, maybe, I think was the year. I can't remember the year. I've never found them, and I look constantly. There are some other ones too. You can find what's known as raw denim, which is basically denim that hasn't been washed. And sometimes those brands can go for decent money. I found some G Stars the other day that were raw, which is a brand out of Amsterdam, I believe, and pretty rare. It's the only one I've ever found. Those can go for tremendous money sometimes, depending on which one it is, $100 plus. And some of the old Levi's, if you find them, even if they're torn up, guys, can go for 5 figures. So go figure, $10,000 for a pair of jeans. Who knew? But
crazy.
You're probably not gonna find too many. Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Isn't that nuts? But we're talking ones like from the 30s and 40s, so not common. Not going to find them in a thrift store, probably.
Use them in like the mining and all that, and it's crazy. Look up some of the sold listings and sort from the highest to the lowest with the Levi's. It's disgusting. Let's see. Sherry Garrison, what's going on, Sherry? Thanks for coming on to the show live. Question: thinking of subscribing to Terapeak. You ever use Terapeak? Do you know anything about it?
I've used it a little bit, but I don't know that you need it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's valuable, but I think eBay provides enough tools without going into a subscription based that you can do great research on clothing without going the Terapeak route. And I'm not saying Terapeak's not valuable. I'm just saying I think in this beginning, I think I would probably just stick to eBay's research tools they have. I mean, you can just go in and do research on solds and completeds and all that good stuff, which I know you've talked about in your videos, Steve. I've got some on those as well. I mean, it doesn't take as long as people think either.
Question from my good friend Betty Ryan. What's going on, Betty? Glad to have you here. She asked a really good question. Do you list more than you sell and continue to increase your inventory?
Yes, and that is our goal. But right now it is tough. Because the sell-through, and I see Pittsburgh Mike's in the room. I know he's a denim reseller. He'll probably tell you the same thing. The sell-through on denim is crazy right now. I'm selling through about 1.5% of my inventory every day. So when you do the math on that, that's like 45% a month, which is nuts. That is fast. That's a pretty fast sell-through for clothing. So I'm trying to get ahead of that. But, we came home from the 2-day sourcing and had like 30 sales to process, and we were going like 36 hours. It was nuts. But yes, that's our goal, and that's what we are doing.
Question from
someone says.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Question from Vadira Graciano. Question: how many jeans do you sell a day? Obviously, it's going to differ. Do you have a goal? Maybe that's a better question. Do you have a goal of how many jeans you'd like to sell per day?
This is going to be heresy in the reseller community, but I don't think setting a sales goal of how many I want to sell a day, I don't think that's a goal. To me, that's an outcome. That's a result of the things that you set goals towards, because you don't totally control your results. You own them, but you don't totally control them. And there's a difference. What you do control is what you buy, what you list, how much you list, when you list, yourself, packing and shipping. So I don't even worry about that stuff too much. But I will tell you, lately it's been about probably the last 3 weeks averaging probably 11 to 12 jeans alone per day that are selling. And that number is continuing to increase as we increase our listings. So it's been strong.
So Jason, you said you had a girlfriend, correct?
Correct.
All right, we're going to need your dating advice. We got to switch things up a little bit. Question from Flash Adler. Question, first time live watcher, love your channel. I really want to hit on this cute girl at Goodwill. She gave me something for free the other day. Should I ask her out? Is it smart to mix business with relationships? I mean, if you were a single guy, girl gives you something for free, is it smart to play where you work?
This is such a loaded question in so many ways. I'm not even sure I want to answer this.
Only I would read that question.
I was going to say, how did you even catch that one? I missed that one. Obviously I can't say it isn't because I have someone helping me who I'm dating and live with. But you got to have some confidence about yourself, but people like to talk about themselves. So I don't know that just walking up to someone in a store just because they were nice to you is probably the right approach. I mean, I'd probably give it a few more times of talk, maybe talk and have a conversation, and you ask a question, then you listen, and let her talk and then see what happens from there. And you can kind of tell if people like you or it's just polite. Hey, you're a customer, I got to be nice to you kind of conversation. But yeah, I mean, I don't think in that case there's anything wrong with it. I mean, she's not gonna, lose her job if she dates a customer, I wouldn't think so. Why not?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys get that mixed up. A girl's nice to you, right? Just kind of being friendly, and then they got to go ask them out. I mean, on a kind of a more professional, serious note, it's important to build relationships at the thrift stores. I'm not talking like on an intimate level, asking out guys and girls and stuff, but just in general, by being nice to people and like being like genuinely like, I don't know if the word's concerned, but just like asking them how their day's going and remembering like, oh, they said that their grandma, maybe went to the hospital or something, like asking them like how to go the next week, like building a real relationship. It's helped me to make a lot of money. And it hasn't been from like an evil place where like I'm trying to like save 20% to like put on my bottom line. But like, if you're nice to people at the thrift stores, like they'll hook you up with deals. Like I get hooked up all the time, and not even on price, but like, hey, Steve, we have a bin that's coming out with a bunch of textbooks. You should go over there in 5 minutes. You have any experience with that?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that because this big, huge wall of jeans you see behind me was what we picked up on a sourcing trip, a couple days ago. This is the funny part. It's 325 pair of jeans, just to give you the actual number. Karn and I thought we had 315. That was our count, and that's when we stopped. We're like, we get to 300, we're going to stop. And we actually kind of ran out of cash because it was a place that only took cash. We actually ran out of money. What a problem to have. I mean, they're over $1,000. It's over $1,000 worth of jeans. Somebody asked that earlier. That's what it cost. It was like $380 a jean. But the funny thing is, we got home and we realized, because that's the count, it's 220. It's 325. We actually got 10 free jeans because we went back through the receipts and looked. And it's like, but we were super nice. And I don't even know exactly what store it is, but the cashiers, these stores were like, there was no music playing. There's all these signs up about all these rules. No this and no checks from this bank and no that. We only take cash. We only take checks. No credit cards. No refunds. No exchanges. And you could tell like the people there just did not even want to be there. The people working. So we're just going and kill them with kindness. I mean, you kind of get what you give, and if you go in and you're nice, I mean, and I really think that we got those 10 free pair of jeans simply because we were nice to all the cashiers and asked them how they were doing and were genuinely interested. And I mean, I'm sure it was a mistake and I feel a little bad about it. I wish I could rectify it, but I don't know which store it was at this point. But I think it was just one of those where like, you go in and you're just nice and they don't get that. Yep. They don't get that from everyone. So you stick out. And I've had, pretty good experiences in our local stores. I've had managers tell me at Goodwill say, oh, are you going to resell these? And I'm like,
I love when they ask
you get
that.
the deer in hell.
Why are you asking?
Yeah, because I was buying like 30. Yeah, I was buying like 30, and I go, well, yeah, actually I am. I'm kind of like a personal shopper for people I'll never meet. And that's actually what I tell them, or, you know, and the guy says, oh, cool. That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you supporting Goodwill's mission. You know, I mean, it was like, you know, the pressure was off. So I think you get what you give. And we try to always be super nice to people in the stores. And I think it does get paid back to you.
Awesome. Let's see. Someone says sold 5 items yesterday and still waiting on payment for all 5. You fellas seeing any issues like this, or is it a fluke that I got 5 slow payers? Let's shift that question a little bit and talk about what do you do when you get a non-paying buyer? Somebody buys a pair of jeans or multiple jeans and they don't pay. For me, I've got it automated where eBay will actually open up a case after X amount of days. It's in your settings because I just don't want to be bothered with it. But I do this part-time. Someone was asking, do you do it part-time or full-time? I'm part-time. Are you full-time or part-time as well?
Full-time.
Full-time. Okay.
Full-time. And I handle it on the front end by requiring immediate payment. However,
interesting.
There are times, you know, because I do it buy it nows. I don't do auctions. I do have times when people will message me and say, hey, would you take, you know, this amount of money for these jeans? And usually I counter offer, and sometimes they accept it. In that situation, they're not required to pay immediately. That's
really?
eBay's.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So, and I don't have best offer on the jeans, but I was able to submit an offer to them because they sent me a message.
Yep.
But if they don't pay, I do have the auto set up just like you do. It goes out like, I think in 2 days. And then, you know, I will send them one more message after that if they still haven't. If they still haven't, then I just, you know, file the whole, you know, what is it, item not paid for, whatever the acronym is. And I've never actually had an issue. Everybody's paid. One time a guy went long, but then he's like, oh, here's the money. I'm like, great.
Why did you decide to go require immediate payment? Was it to combat the non-paying sellers, or did you just always do that? I'm just curious if you ever tried not doing it, because I'm wondering, is that affecting your sales to an extent? Because maybe there's certain people out there who like to buy things and then pay when they get their check on Friday. What are your thoughts on that?
There probably are. You're exactly right. I'm sure there are people like that. I look at it this way. You know, I'm always trying to analyze it, you know, from an analytical standpoint. I'm thinking, but then again, if I have my items, let's say if I told you right now, Steve, take all your eBay and Amazon items and take them off the market for 2 days and don't let them be sold to anyone else. What would you say? You'd probably be like, no.
Right.
I mean, that would right. So in effect, when someone doesn't pay you right away, your item's off the market. And, you know, it's been, but it's not, it can't be resold during that time because there is a sale. And so some percentage of your inventory is always going to be off the market waiting for payment. So I look at it like that probably offsets anyone who, you know, wouldn't buy from me because they require me a payment. So,
yeah, I've got a couple of them in the chamber now. I think I've got, I was just looking earlier, 2, a pair of women's Dansko shoes. Bought them. It's been over a week. They never paid it. The case has been open, but I have to just go in and finalize it. And then it was a San Francisco 49ers jacket. Never paid. I feel like with a lot of the sporting items, people are just, I don't know. They in video games, I mean, people they buy and they don't pay. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. I think that's gonna about wrap it up. I don't want to go over the time too much. I apologize. This was only supposed to be an hour, and I like to keep my word and time in terms of the duration of the show. So I want to thank you for watching live, everybody. I want to thank you, Jason, for coming on and sharing your knowledge and information with the viewers. I mean, we had over 170, 180 the whole entire time, which is phenomenal. So I'm really happy that this show was able to add value to the people, and I'm grateful for you coming on, Jason. If you guys enjoyed this show, what should they do, Jason? Come on, talk to them, man. What do they do if they like this show? How do they pay us back without giving us money?
You don't have to pay us anything other than just one click. Smash that like button down below. Not the well, hopefully not the dislike. Smash the like button. So, and leave us a comment too after the show posts if you're watching it later, so we can try to answer it.
Yeah, let us know if you have any more questions. We'll go in and answer it after and help you guys out as much as we can. But again, guys, thanks for watching. If you guys want to be able to learn more about Jason, go to his YouTube channel at Prof Sales. That's PROF Sales. And I've linked that up in the description as well, including his Instagram. Is there any other places people can learn more about you or anything you want to put out there for the folks to help them out?
No, I'd say those two are the best, and we have a great community over there of resellers, and we have live vlogs quite often. So we get together in the afternoons and we talk about results, and we talk about questions, and it's just a great community we're forming over there. So I'd love for you guys to be part of it. And thank you, Steve, for having me on. I really appreciate it. You were one of my icons that I look up to in the reseller community. So this was really a thrill for me. So I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Keep doing the good work on your channel and everything, man. I know you're helping a lot of people and making a difference, so we all appreciate it. But with that being said, guys, keep on picking and making that money, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of the day. Bye.
Bye, guys.